What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 360. And appreciate you all for tuning in once again. I recently, the last episode, I shared my opinion on the whole Jim Jones and Tony Yayo thing. If you haven't seen that episode, go ahead and check it out. Posted it on my Instagram, the main one, because I have a podcast Instagram page, which doesn't have that many followers. I think it's got 1,500, something like that, maybe 1,400. I don't know. Not much, right? And then I have the main one, which is Diverse Mentality, and that one has right now 266,000. So obviously it's a huge discrepancy in, followers and just exposure, right? So I decided to post that Jim Jones and Tony Yayo thing on the main page. It's already cleared 300,000 views. It's like my Rick Ross post where I address Rick Ross calling my documentary Cap, which I did on the podcast here, but then I also posted on the Diverse Mentality Instagram page, and it's almost at 1 million views. So it's interesting. When I voice my opinion on things, they tend to do better in views. And I can understand why, because people want my perspective on certain things. I'm not the end all be all. What I say doesn't go, whatever. Like, in certain areas, I have a lot of knowledge in and history in. So I kind of have a different perspective on viewing it, and people want to hear it, especially when it relates to anything to G Unit, right? Because that's my, I know that up and down better than any other thing, right? I'm saying all that to say, on this podcast, I'm going to try to do more kind of reaction/opinion type of content, not just news. I think I said that on previous episodes, but I'm going to do a lot more of that, and then try to do more lists as well and album reviews. I was supposed to review the Mobb Deep album, but didn't have proper time to listen to it, and time's already passed, and it's like, I wanted to do it at least within 3 days of it being released, because Friday comes out and then I record the episode Sunday. So at least within those 2 to 3 days, I can listen to the album and then give my review. But as time goes on, it just becomes irrelevant. People don't really care. I need to do more lists, like top 10, albums or top best albums of this, so I am working on that. As you can see on the Instagram page, what I am doing on the Instagram page, if you don't follow it, Diverse Mentality, I am asking questions. Right? I'll say, what's the best album to come out in 2005? And I want to see what people say. When I'm asking these questions is because I'm going to be answering these questions on the podcast. So on the next episode, I will have my answer for what is the best albums that came out in 2005. I'll do a top 10 list. Hip-hop albums, by the way. Nothing else but just hip-hop albums. So I posted that post like probably a week and a half ago, and I got very interesting responses of what people thought. I did mess up on the post, though. I think I put the Carter 1 album cover instead of the Carter 2. I don't know how I messed that up, but sometimes I do make these little small mistakes, because some of the posts are me, some of the posts are my friend that has been helping me post on social media. So it's a mixture between, majority though, it's him. It's probably 30% me and then 70% him. You can kind of tell when it's me. I think it's I don't know. It's a lot more curated, I guess, versus, more simpler posts like, Kanye West's Graduation is the most streamed album on Spotify in hip hop, right? Like that's a simple post that, he'll take care of. But he'll do the questions one, like he just did one with Kendrick and Lil Wayne. He'll run it by me and say, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think it's a cool question to ask? I'll be like, yeah, it's cool. And then we post it. But we're doing these questions just to kind of get people's gauge. And then I'm going to do these questions on the podcast and answer them myself. So I just kind of wanted to give that heads up. And I want to talk about it a little bit later, because Tyler, the Creator, got a bunch of backlash on social media about his white fan base not respecting black artists. I guess that was kind of the tweet. I got to go over it 100% on this article, which I did go over, but I kind of forget word for word what it was. But it was basically a tweet essentially saying that, I was tweeting at Tyler, the Creator, saying that the fan said that, hey, your fan base doesn't really appreciate other black artists, blah, 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 your white fan base. I want to talk about that because as I did this Jim Jones video, right? And I always expect this because, not everybody knows what I do. Not everybody knows who I am. There's people that know Diverse Mentality. There's people that know me and watch this podcast. There's people that only seen like one documentary of mine ever, and then they just never really paid attention ever again. And then they run into me on social media again and say, oh, this is the guy who made that, Nas versus Jay-Z, who really won video or whatever, or made that Nipsey Hussle documentary, whatever, right? And then there's people that never heard of me, and they just comment, who is Quake? Who is this white guy speaking on black issues and black culture and blah 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 blah. And I'm used to that at this point. There's people that just flat out say I'm a culture vulture, whatever the case may be. Right, that doesn't bother me. It is what it is. I will engage with it because a lot of it is basically just racist at the end of the day. You know, people will see your skin color and just assume things and assume you don't know shit about hip hop. You know, I've been doing this in terms of media since I was 12 years old, which was in 2008. I had a hip hop website in 2008. I've been doing this 2008 to 2026 for 18, well, it's not 2026, so I guess 17 years straight, about to be 18 years straight. So, you know, when people say, you know, you're a culture vulture, that culture vulture to me is like somebody that just reaps the benefits of something and then kind of just disposes of it. I guess Post Malone is an example of that, but I can understand why he did what he did because he also got attacked like that and said, you're just somebody who's reaping the benefits of hip hop culture. And then he left because he was just tired of hearing that shit. And I do get tired of seeing those type of comments because it's like, you don't know. You just look at a video, you look at skin color, and you're like, this guy is some white guy speaking on hip hop. He has no idea what the fuck he's talking about, right? And I got that with the Jim Jones and Tony Yayo thing. I got that with the Rick Ross thing, with the video I made on that. And the Rick Ross one's kind of funny because Rick Ross is the one that came on my page, calling my documentary cap. So he's the one that started it. I'm just responding. But for this Jim Jones and Tony Yayo thing, I can see why people would be like, why are you jumping into this? You know, why? And for me, I like to break down like sometimes the history of things and why certain things happen. Now, I'm not saying that that's why, you know, when I made that video, I wasn't saying definitively, hey, this is why Jim Jones is upset at Tony Yayo. I just think from my perspective, you know, this is how I view it. Obviously, I could have gone way deeper with the Jim Jones and Tony Yayo thing. I could have gone so much deeper, and I could have gone into more personal things with Jim Jones that happened to him with stack bundles and all this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of factors as to why Jim Jones kind of just went crazy and decided to go in on Tony Yayo. There's a few factors, actually. But regardless, I didn't go down that path. You know, some people commented about it on the actual Instagram page when I posted it. And one guy kind of broke it down and said, Jim Jones, this. And I was like, yeah, I could have said all of that. But I went a lot more light and just kind of really, I just gave my perspective on what I thought was the number one reason. But there are way more reasons and way more deeper potentially reasons. So I wasn't saying that what I was saying is the definitive thing of what's, you know, I just give kind of my perspective on it, my opinion at the end of the day. And I'm entitled to do that. And everybody has, you know, their say in whatever culture, right? You know, but just be respectful. Obviously, know your history. That's the kind of, and I'm going to talk about this more on the Tyler, the Creator thing. Know your history of what you're talking about. You know, I'm not expecting people to know 100%. Like, I don't know everything about hip hop that's ever happened. But, you know, I would say I'm well versed in a lot of stuff. I've been doing this for a long time. So just assume that I'm just some random guy that doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and got into this, you know, 3 months ago. You know, I can understand where that's coming from. But yeah, I just wanted to I'm kind of ranting about that. But it's just interesting when you post these things and some people just kind of just throw crazy things out there. But it's the internet. I'm not really surprised. It doesn't bother me. Like I said, the worst I've ever gotten was the Eminem MGK video where I did say, you know, the Rap Devil song is better than Killshot. I got insane death threats and like DMs of people just going crazy on me. And I'm going to talk about that later on the Tyler, the Creator thing as well. But let's get into some of the news. And it really hasn't been really too crazy in terms of news. But let's first start out with Lil Durk. He just had his 33rd birthday, and he decided to share a heartfelt message. So let's go over the article. Lil Durk sadly faced a lot of hardship and amid the release of his new album, Deep Thoughts, this year, as he has been in prison for almost a year. He faces charges of murder for hire, alleging his role in the 2022 attempted murder of Quando Rondo, which took the life of Rondo's cousin, Lil Pap. Amid many updates on Durk's case, though, we have not been able to hear a whole lot from the Chicago rapper himself. However, it seems like his 33rd birthday on Sunday, October 19th, resulted in at least the release of a statement from him. In a clip caught by Caruso on Twitter, Smirk seems to talk about a group of friends in a phone call from behind bars. So let's play this.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
All I was saying was my father had briefed me on what's going on, and I said, I'm going to let y'all know I'm proud of y'all for the sake of Allah. You know, I love y'all for the sake of Allah, you know. I'm doing better, man. We all got second chances, and, you know, we can always let y'all know that we with y'all 100%. You know, when I get out of here, you know, inshallah, ASAP before October or during trial, I have to go. I'm going to leave that example. And I told them I want to come down there and see y'all, come speak to y'all. So, you know what I'm saying? Get y'all mask right, get y'all brotherhood together, and get on the team. You know, I love y'all for the sake of Allah.
Love.
We love you back, man. Jazakallah khair.
Hey, Pop, I'm going to make the...
Yeah, so he's gotten very religious, as most people do when they get into prison, and a lot of people actually resort to Islam. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing if he actually means it, obviously. You know, me being Muslim, I'm not the perfect Muslim, but it's interesting when rappers go religious, especially being Muslim, and then they continue doing very bad haram things, right? Haram is basically just, what's a better way to word it? Better way to explain it. It's just bad things you're doing. You know, haram is like you're doing bad deeds, bad things, right? So that's whenever they convert like that, like Kevin Gates, for example, converted, and then he's still doing a lot of crazy different stuff. So it's like, you know, who am I to judge? I'm not perfect in in any way either. I have my flaws as well, being a Muslim. So I'm not here to judge or be, oh my God, like, well, look what you're doing. You know, at the end of the day, God's the one that judges everyone, and I can't, speak for that. But it's interesting because then if Durk gets out, we'll see if he actually maintains this religious route of things. I hope he does, because really, I'm glad that a lot of the violent music of like murder and killing and just laughing about ops, and it's starting to dwindle down. I'm not really hearing a lot of it. Maybe it's still there because I know some Brooklyn rapper just got shot, 27-year-old, but he was rapping about laughing at his ops and this, that. So it's still there, but in the mainstream, it's not really getting covered, which I appreciate. I hope that music just dies out completely. I think that's probably one of the reasons why hip-hop is slowly becoming a genre that's not dominant anymore. I'm actually seeing a lot more black artists go the country route. I actually just saw one with Juvenile. He's featured on the track. It's a black artist making country-style music with Juvenile in it. Country right now seems to be the genre that's dominating. I mean, you can look at the charts, sales, you can look at everything. That's going to be the dominant genre for probably in the future. I think hip-hop has kind of reached its peak, and a lot of the music is sounding the same, and we've kind of lost that uniqueness of it, what made it really fresh. And just because, for example, you can go in 2005, right, and everybody that released an album sounded different. Everybody had their unique sound. Now, a lot of the music sounds the same, and it's very, very frustrating. That's not to say everything, but I want to say 80 to 85% of the music does sound the same. Or it might just be fatigue, man. It might just be hip-hop's been dominating for so long. People want something different. They're just kind of, they already had enough of it, and they're like, hey, what's something else out there that's interesting to listen to? I don't know. I do know that the quality of hip-hop music has gone down. I don't want to say significantly, but quite a bit. Because I'm noticing, I'm a hip-hop fan, and I'm noticing I'm not really enjoying new releases. I'm not like running to a new release, which is unfortunate. There's been a few albums this year. This year has been pretty good for hip-hop, actually, so I can't really complain about this year. We've gotten a lot of like OG hip-hop heads, and that's a huge thanks to Nas with Mass Appeal. A lot of it's just gotten kind of watered down, and just, that's why I kind of like gatekeepers. I like back in the day, there would be A&Rs. Like, you'd have to go through a process, essentially, kind of like school, college, in order to, make it. Now is just you upload your song. If you go viral off TikTok, there you go. You made it. And how long does that really last? A lot of people just come and go. How did I get to this point? I have no idea, because I was talking about Lil Durk and his religious stance and, how he's doing. But, yeah, man, it sucks to be locked up. It's a shitty situation overall, but we'll see what happens moving forward. I don't know when his trial is. I think it got pushed back to January, I believe, this year. So, obviously, I'll keep you guys updated. Speaking of keeping you guys updated, Lil Wayne, this lawsuit happened before the podcast was even a thing. It happened in 2019. The podcast started late 2020. So, let's go over this article. Like I said, I'll always keep you guys updated of whatever I see, regardless of me not even reporting on it before the podcast had even started. So, let's go over this. Lil Wayne can finally put a years-long legal dispute to rest as he continues to raise fans' eyebrows with new music. According to Digital Music News, a judge ruled in his favor concerning a battle with his former lawyer, Ron Ron Sweeney. For those unaware, Weezy sued Sweeney in 2019 for an exorbitant contingency fee that saw the attorney make 10% of the rapper's profits. He claimed that this was double the customary rate for attorneys in the music industry and that this wasn't legally binding because the verbal agreement never actually got a signature since he fired the lawyer in 2018. On the other hand, Ron Sweeney countersued the Rock Curious MC in California and in New York, arguing that Wayne owed him $20 million from the post-firing deals and that the court should enforce the contingency fee. The deals reportedly included Cash Money Records' royalty settlement and UMG's alleged purchase of Young Money's master recordings. Now on Tuesday, October 14th, New York Judge James D. Auguste ruled that Tunechi does not owe Ron Sweeney 10% of any money he made after they split. Counterclaim plaintiff may not, under the law, receive a contingency fee as contemplated by the voided oral contingency fee arrangement or otherwise, court documents reportedly read. Accordingly, they are not entitled to discovery regarding the monies received by Wayne in connection with the master recording sale and Cash Money Universal settlements. Furthermore, Sweeney can seek reasonable fees from the mixtape legend determined in evidence discovery. He still wants his money, but Lil Wayne says he actually overpaid him in their 13-year work relationship, so he argues that this is moot. After a 7-year battle in multiple courts in New York and California, lawyers can rest a little easier knowing that the rule of law still matters and will be applied faithfully by courts, Weezy's lawyer Jonathan Davis reportedly stated to Billboard. Damn, that is a long 7-year legal battle. How does that, like I said, man, I'll never understand the judicial system here. Like, look at YNW Melly. Whether he killed his two friends or not, right? Whether he did it or not. The guy is still locked up. And he got locked up in 2019. So he's been locked up literally as long as this legal battle for Lil Wayne's been happening. And he's not getting sentenced. He's not getting another trial. The first trial was a mistrial. So it's like, what's going on? Like, that's insane. It should not take this long. Why is this such a slow, shitty process? The most legal battle should take is, depending on the complexity of obviously the case, 2, maybe 3 years. Max. 7 years is just like, what's the point, man? Why are we doing this? There's people that could die in 7 years. Like, this is way too long. But, hey, shout out to Lil Wayne, man. He won that, and obviously that's a good thing for him because, you know, he ain't got to owe a lot more money. But I'm sure all those lawyer fees that he paid within those 7 years, probably paid a handsome $5 million maybe throughout that time. But it's kind of like the principle. You would rather pay your lawyers that money, even if it was the $20 million, right? You'd rather pay your lawyers than actually pay the person. You know, if you pay the person, they get what they want, and then more people will come and start suing. But interesting nonetheless, man. Long legal battle. NBA YoungBoy has not really learned much of his lesson. He's fucking up his own money, his own bags, but hey, it is what it is, man. Sometimes you got to get your shit off. But let's go over the article of what I'm talking about. NBA YoungBoy was in Atlanta a couple nights ago for the Massa Tour, and as you can imagine, he put on quite the performance. All of YoungBoy's shows have been packed, and the energy has been undeniable. That is true. However, the tour has not been without controversy. Just a few weeks ago, his show in Chicago was canceled. After receiving the key to the city of Atlanta, which Atlanta denied, YoungBoy is now experiencing the opposite end of hospitality spectrum. According to the State Farm Arena, his show on Saturday has been canceled. The arena did not give a reason for the cancellation, although you can probably deduce why they felt this was necessary. During Wednesday night's show, YoungBoy performed his diss track, I Hate YoungBoy. This was a bold choice, especially as the song takes aim at artists like Lil Baby, Gucci Mane, and 21 Savage. All three are Atlanta staples. Meanwhile, Chicago artists like Lil Durk and King Von are also referenced in the song. We reported on that, but State Farm released a statement saying State Farm has made the decision to cancel the NBA YoungBoy show scheduled for Saturday, October 18th in Atlanta. If you purchase through Ticketmaster, refunds will be issued automatically. If you purchase from a third-party reseller, please reach out to your point of purchase. So one, NBA YoungBoy gets great coverage because of him performing that diss track, right? A lot of people covered it. I believe I covered it on the last podcast. So he gets good coverage, but it also fucks up your money because it causes problems. You know, the second show could have been, you know, somebody from 21 Savage's crew or somebody from Lil Durk's crew or somebody from Gucci Mane's crew. come in there and starting some shit. And then you got potentially people shootings. Who knows what could happen, right? You know, why fuck up your money like that? I think NBA YoungBoy has, you see how the pendulum has swung, right? NBA YoungBoy at first was the one that was locked up and everything was looking bad for him. And Lil Durk was on top of the world, getting, you know, songs with Drake, doing, you know, songs with Morgan Wallen and having these, you know, hit records and these great albums that are selling. And now, look, the pendulum has swung the other way, and Lil Durk is now locked up, and NBA YoungBoy is having his great success with his tour. You know, what goes around comes around, I guess. However, I still say Lil Durk is a bigger artist than NBA YoungBoy. I had that debate back on the podcast in 2021, and I've been proven right so far. I mean, NBA YoungBoy, yes, he has a lot of plaques, but that's just because he releases so much fucking music. That's really what it is. And his hardcore fan base, you know, they really rock with him like that. And as you can see with the shows and the tours, he's doing really well, man. He's you know, from what I've seen, he's sold out every place that he's performed at, from what I've seen. And not a lot of artists can do that, man. I think Lil Baby tried to do a tour. It did not go well. A lot of artists try to do tours, and it did not translate to ticket sales. It's not that easy to get a lot of people out of their house to go to see you. It's not easy, man. You got to have great music. You got to have great energy. It can't just be subpar shit. You know, at least for me. I haven't been. When was the last time I was at a concert? That's actually a good question. When was the last time I was at a concert that I can think of? Actually, it was that 50 Cent Final Lap in New York. I think that was the last time I was at a concert. I know I went to Kevin Gates too. I just don't remember what. Yeah, that was before the 50 Cent. So 50 Cent was the last one, the Final Lap tour in New York. That's when I went to that concert. That was the last concert I've been to, which is end of 2023. What artists would I actually go out and see? I would actually, because I've seen Kendrick Lamar live, I've seen T.I. live, I've seen Chris Brown live, I've seen Migos live, I've seen Usher, I've seen basically anybody in Atlanta for the most part. I've seen live. K-Camp at the time when he was popping. Quite a few, you know, artists. I actually saw 50. So far, I've seen 50 Cent twice live. And people are like, damn, Quake, you only seen 50 live twice, man. What the fuck? You're not a real fan? Mind you, I was living in Iowa. So he never came to Iowa and performed there. At the age of what? When 50 was popping, but before I self-destruct tour, that was in 2009. I was 14 years old. Who would I, you know, my brother maybe could have went with me in 2009 to go to Chicago. I'd have to go all the way to Chicago from Iowa to actually see that. So I never got, you know, living where I lived, I never got a chance to watch basketball games because no NBA. We have no NBA team there. And didn't get a chance to really go to concerts. I went to Kid Ink. I went to Hobson, Dizzy Wright. It's really about it. Drake did perform there. He did lie to everybody in Iowa because my brother and sister went to that Drake concert back in 2013 when he was on his Nothing Was the Same run. He lied to everybody and was like, yeah, I'm going to be out here back in Iowa. I'll rock with y'all. Never came back again. I mean, Iowa, I don't think has the stadium capacity for an artist like Drake, for example, right? You have to have like good amount of capacity to do that. But Iowa is just not a stop that artists make, unfortunately. I hope that, you know, if I get bigger and bigger and I have more influence, I would hope to influence, you know, more artists to go to Iowa, man. Great place, man. A lot of hip hop fans there. So I think people are missing out, or at least artists are missing out, not going there. Some artists do go there. That's usually the smaller artists, you know, like if you kind of, because Fetty Wap, when he was popping, never went there, right? But then once he started to slowly, you know, fall off, he started doing, you know, shows in Iowa, stuff like that. So usually if you're past your prime, you can perform there. I mean, Snoop Dogg's performed there, but it wasn't like a concert. It was like a, you know, like one of those events that happen and then you bring out some people to perform a little bit. It's like one of those like gathering events, but it wasn't really a concert. But yeah, it's like Iowa's one of those places that if you're washed up or you're just before you're about to blow up, because I did see Future in Iowa. I went to that concert, and this is right before. This is actually when he released Honest, which was kind of people were looking at him like, do I really rock with this guy? He was kind of like in between. He was dating Sierra, and the music was not really hitting like that, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like it wasn't performing, but it just wasn't with DS2. And, you know, when he hit that whole run, it was a whole different thing. You know, he started packing out, you know, and there in Iowa, he had probably, it was fairly empty. I think half of the place was empty. I think I have a photo still. I think I took it when because I was on the side. I wasn't where, you know, the crowd was at the bottom. I was at the side, and I was just looking at it from the side, I remember, and it was just like halfway full. But not a lot of people go to Iowa. It's usually before you blow up or after you've had your prime, and you're just going there to collect, a couple $1,000s or whatever the case may be to do your show of a couple hundred people. I remember DMX went there. My brother went to that as well. Mobb Deep went to Iowa, and not a lot of people showed up. Iowa has its hardcore hip hop fan base. But you got to be at the right kind of location. If you're somewhere way too far out, most people won't go. But anyways, enough of a tangent and run on Iowa. NBA YoungBoy fucking up his money by doing that, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Hopefully he stops doing this, stop inciting things, because clearly no company wants to deal with any type of violence that would happen from this. So yeah, stop it, NBA YoungBoy. Get your money, man. Forget all that shit of the little diss tracks. You're having your run. You're having your winning moment right now. Rod Wave, this is a lesson in business, because I used to actually sell merch. This is when I had the hip hop website. I used to sell merch. I remember J. Cole featured one of my designs in the Wale's Black Grammys music video. Go to that video. You'll see during J. Cole's verse, there was a guy who's wearing one of my t-shirt designs, and you'll see a diverse hip hop logo right below that design. That is my t-shirt design. Everybody was buying those. It was selling out like hotcakes. Especially after that video dropped, it was amazing. I say all that to say, merchandise is something that I haven't got into yet, because I really don't want to do what I did in the past with hip hop, when I had my hip hop website. Clothing, I would notice, and I didn't know this at the time, because if I knew it, I probably would have never started it. But the clothing at the time wasn't really high quality. Like, you would wear it, and then the design would start to wear off after maybe, I don't know, man, probably like 10 or 15 washes, right? So that would be a huge problem. I didn't like that. I want something high quality that, like, when you're washing it, it's going to last you a long time. And it just feels good too. I didn't really like the way those t-shirts really felt too much. And if you bought more of the premium ones, it was kind of way too expensive. It was just wasn't, because the company that was making them was Spreadshirt. So they would take care of everything. All I'd have to do is the design and choose what kind of shirts that I wanted it printed on. That's it. So I'm saying all this to say, Rod Wave goes on Joe Budden's podcast and basically says, hey, when I took control of my merchandise, I went from making $200,000 to $14 million, which is a drastic jump, but I can kind of see where that's coming from, because when I looked into taking control of my own clothing and actually doing it myself, the margins were way better. You go from, because when Spreadshirt was doing it, every $20 t-shirt that was being sold, I was making probably $6, $7. They were making about the bulk of it, $13, $14 off a shirt. So I was making $5, $6, maybe $7. Doing it yourself, when you buy in bulk as well, which is kind of where, you need to have some type of money, because buying in bulk is where, you can get things cheaper. You buy in bulk and stuff like that, and Rod Way's got enough money to buy in bulk, so he gets them probably those t-shirts for 20 cents, prints them on, probably gets them for 80 to $1, 80 cents to $1 made, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I haven't been in the t-shirt clothing market in a long time, but let's just say he gets them made for $2, sells them for $20. There's $18. If he had somebody else do it, the margins would be cut drastically. So let's play this clip and see what he has to say.
And he wasn't really like hip to the business, like we learned the shit together. And he was kind of breaking it down to me, like, no, them folks ain't. No, we don't need them no more. We can go do
show me
shit.
the plug.
I don't.
Yeah,
you know
you
got
show
money.
me the plug.
You know
how
what's
you
crazy?
go
buy a watch and go buy a car. You can go buy your own clothes and pay these folk to print it up, pay these folk to transport it, and we gonna do that. And I went from $200,000 to $14 million, just taking control of my own merch.
Nice.
See what I'm saying? So many art, it's like so many business inside of business. Like as an artist,
sure.
I'm just on the stage rapping and
Having a good time.
And I'm caught up in the rock star, and all these folk got businesses off of me.
Right.
Yeah.
See
That
what
you
I'm
don't even
saying?
get to participate in.
Like you just like, hey, here go $5 million, and yeah, okay, I quit. Let me get that.
Literally,
these
you know
folk done
they
made
made 20.
17.
Yeah, they done made 21
Ain't
million.
did nothing.
Right.
Even if they made $2 million, shit, they got. Even if they made $2 million, shit, they got 5, 6, 7 of you.
Right.
Cause every artist just on the stage bouncing around or just in the rock star
Happy
in the
getting-
moment.
getting short.
You see what I'm saying? It's cool, and it's free game right here.
He's right. And I've had it happen to me where there's companies that'll offer their services for me. Like, hey, I'll clip all your content. I'll do this and that. But hey, I'll just give you whatever is made. I'll give you a couple percentage of what is made. And of course, I won't ever do that because I'd rather build it myself. It'll take longer, it takes a longer time, a longer process, a lot more of a learning curve, but I reap more of the benefits, But these artists, I can kind of understand, right? As you got to put it from perspective as an artist, right? All of a sudden, you're making millions touring and you're making millions off your music. You're making so much money that somebody comes to you and says, hey, man, you can make another $5 million here. And you ain't got to do nothing. Here, I'm just going to cut you a check for $5 million. But I need to use, your rights, your trademark to do this clothing stuff. You're not really going to think much of it, man. You're going to be like, hey, I'm already popping over here making money, man. Another $5 million here. And I didn't even think that I would even be able to get another $5 million. It's new money. It's just coming out of nowhere. You're not really going to think of like, oh, man, how's he getting that $5 million? What's going on? You're just going to be like, hey, another $5 million. Oh, shit, another $2 million. Oh, shit, another $3 million here. You're not really going to look into it like that. But he's right, man. When somebody comes to you and says, hey, man, I can give you this money, just let me take care of this side of things. Clearly, that person's making way more money than what he gave you. That's just the gist of it. That's how the business goes, Nobody would get involved in something like that unless, they were making a good amount of money, So he's right. He went from probably making, $200,000 to $14 million. Now you got to imagine, think about the artists that are doing global tours. Like 50 Cent popped in my head because during the Final Lap tour, when I went over there, when I was in New York there, they did have shirts for sale. They had a bunch of stuff for sale. The shirts were expensive too, man. We bought a shirt, but it was like fucking $40 or $50, some crazy amount of money, probably even more. But you can imagine how much money the merch. If Rod Wave's making $14 million, you can imagine probably 50 made $50 million, off of the whole world. They probably bought stuff. I bought a shirt. This person bought a shirt at $50 a pop, at $70 a pop. I'll never forget too, while we were buying a shirt, there was these girls. It was hilarious, man. I think they were trying to hit on us. They were pretty average. They were not like anything special looking or whatever, but it was so funny because they were trying, like, you can tell one of them was like spitting game to try to get like, whether it was my number or my brother's or, fuck, man, who was with us? I forget, slipped my mind. I think Ari, shout out to you again. I think he was with us that day, yeah, and Brian. But I think Brian, I don't know if Brian was there. Yeah, we were, there's these girls. It was just hilarious when I was buying the shirt, and these girls like, I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, you guys are talking about some most random ass shit. Yeah, like these artists, man, you can make a shit ton of money, man. These artists, I just don't see how an artist can go broke, especially when you reach a certain, like, if you make 10 million. Making 10 million, there should be no way you should go broke unless you're just a fucking moron and you just spend your money so quick, like invest it, man. But a lot of these artists, it's unfortunate, man. There needs to be a school that these individuals go to where they get more educated on what to do with their money. But a lot of these individuals don't even hear. They're just blowing money and they're like, oh, I'm going to make it back. And all of a sudden, you don't make it back and you're in a drought and things go worse and stuff like that. But yeah, interesting nonetheless, and free game for you guys, man. Free game. Gucci Mane has been on a promo run doing interviews because he has released, I believe, a new book, and he has released a new album to go with that book, and it is called Episodes. I haven't checked out the album. I do want to check it out, though, because I'm hearing some good things about it. But while he's doing the promo run, he stops by the Big Facts podcast, and he speaks on his versus battle with Young Jeezy, which kind of went left because, Gucci Mane decided to play the Truth diss track, and then people thought it would go left from there, and, there might be a beef that starts again. But Young Jeezy was mature and was basically the more mature man in that situation and decided not to drop his diss track, Stay Strapped. He just went on and played his own music. So Gucci Mane reflects on that moment and says he's glad that Young Jeezy did that. And I did report on it as the verses was done that Gucci regretted playing the Truth diss track. I was hoping he would speak on it here, but he didn't. But what was it? Q from Quality Control or P from I don't know, QP, or I forget the names of the individuals who were on Quality Control. But they said Gucci got into the car and he was like, man, I regretted doing that shit. So he speaks on it again. And basically you can kind of hear he does regret it, what happened. And, he says, Gucci Jeezy was a great person for not, playing the diss track and feeding into the bullshit.
Jeezy kind of, for the grown folk, you know what, bro, I stand there, all the rest did all that shit he did then.
I
On
tell
the
you
realest
what.
nigga, that shit kind of was hard too, though.
Yeah.
I respected it.
Yeah.
I
Like you
respect
said,
it
if you
because-
trying to come back and stay strapped, you throwing the mic
Because
all
see,
type
listen,
of shit.
I thought that I'm the level-headed one. I'm like mature now.
So like that side of me don't come out no more.
Yeah.
So that's how I came going into the verses. But once I started the verses, it seemed like he was more level-headed and calmer than I was. You feel me?
Yeah.
Because I'm dropping diss records. He didn't drop no diss records.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
But that's how I looked at it. Like, damn. So it kind of made me. I ain't
Who
gonna say.
with you? Who with you?
Oh, I had it with me.
What they what they were saying when the truth was playing? They were rapping it.
Man, they ready. They ready. They with it. They want to go. I got to stop them telling them, hey, look, don't do that way. Like, the energy probably what made me like that, because my dude energy, they ready.
Oh, so he had to figure out a way to be like,
I ain't saying he had to, but you know what I'm saying? I feel like,
that was smart.
That was smart. And they were like, it brought everything to like a respect level. Like, from then on, we kind of like, we ain't been no disrespect since then.
Nah, that's why I said I seen that. That's why I said that. Like, cause you know, I'm having a back and forth with my kids.
In that moment, Jeezy had the foresight to be able to see.
Gucci. Nah. I was like, bro, really, Jeezy did some grown man shit. That's just how I felt when I seen it. It don't matter what. I know what shout on. I know he back in his own six right now. I can see it.
I couldn't do nothing but respect it, because it's like, if I diss you and you don't diss back and you go there, I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I respect that, because you could have.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so at that moment, you think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You ain't crash out.
Exactly.
You that's smart.
It is smart.
Yeah, so Jeezy was the grown man in the situation and handled it properly, and I agree, man. Jeezy deserves a lot of respect for doing that, because it's easy to go the route of dissing and getting mad and playing diss tracks and starting shit. That's an easy, ignorant route to go. When Jeezy was like, nah, man, I'm way past this. I'm a grown ass man now. I got kids. I got businesses. I got companies that sponsor me. Blah blah blah. Why deal with this shit that happened? Well over at the time, would have been 15 years ago. I think it was 2020 when they did that, or 2021. So it would have been 15, 16 years ago. Why rehash something that old? So yeah, really, really cool that he reflect on that. And then Gucci also revealed that he apologized to Drake and accepted Young Thug's apology. So let's play this.
A lot of them people I reached out to and said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going through something I went well. Then
That's real.
Them folks like, I forgive you, Gucci. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I said some bullshit about Drake, text them some crazy jump, but once I was going through an episode, so I had to hit him back and be like, I'm sorry about that. You know what I'm saying? I was going through something. And he was like, man, we're going to get past that. Brothers go through stuff. Bro, it felt so good that like people went like, understood. Because I'm straight like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To everybody I said anything. Cause I'm just tweeting. I'm just texting people, and I might did it to 30 people. Yeah. Some people like don't want to hear it. You said something that was so offensive, they just don't fuck with me no more. But a lot of people was like, man, we're going to get past that. It ain't no big deal. And I'm like appreciative of that.
And they're not trying to hold on to that grudge.
Yeah.
But do you appreciate it so much because like I probably wouldn't have forgave you?
No, I'm like that too. For real. It's like that. Like I probably wouldn't have forgave you. It's people who I won't forgive. You feel they don't get no comeback. They can't come around me no more. Yeah. But somebody forgave me though.
So that makes you be like, damn, I really take that to heart because I know how I am. Like I really hold a grudge till you go. But
let's say for instance, like Thug said some stuff about me or whatever, right? Yeah. And it came on the internet. But then he made a song and say, I miss my dogs about me. I immediately accept the apology because I done been there.
Yeah.
And I wanted somebody to forgive me. I know how that it's like a weight on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want somebody to be like, bro, it's okay. You know what I mean?
Talk to
I ain't talked to him. Yeah. But like
I
said,
do forgive him.
Yeah, I forgive him.
Yeah. That's how.
Yeah.
And there you have it. When Gucci had his whole run, those insane tweets by the time this was like 2011, I think, or 2012. This is when he had that big belly, just, drinking lean, and he did that Breakfast Club interview. It was crazy, man. He was a totally different person. He was going on these rants, disrespecting literally everybody that you can imagine. Yeah, he basically, when he got better, he was like, hey, I apologize to everybody, and everybody accepted it for the most part. And yeah, that's what it's about, man. So I'm glad he did the same thing when it came to Young Thug, because he was probably having his episode, his moments. And everybody's human, man. There's going to be mistakes that people make. And me, I'm the type that, if you make a mistake, I will accept the apology. I'm not like the type of person to hold grudges. Now, if you keep repeating the mistake, which I've had, friends that I consider really close to do, I can't forgive that then. I just kind of move on because you're clearly not respecting me. You're not respecting what's happened in the past, and you're not learning from anything. That's where I have an issue, and I'm like, I don't really rock with you anymore. I don't wish ill will on nobody. I have no enemies. I wish no malice towards anybody. I just move on, and you're not part of my life anymore. It's really that simple. I don't want to talk to you. If I see you in person, it's not issues. I'm not going to start something up, but I'm just not interested in being involved in your life in any way, shape, or form anymore. And that's really what it is for me. Just move on. Everybody does their own thing, and that's it. So that's how I am with situations. I'm willing to forgive, and sometimes that's screwed me over millions of times. But it is what it is, man. Not everybody's the same person. Some people, when they genuinely are sorry, they genuinely mean it, and they move on. We move on from the situation, and it never happens again. And then there's other people where, they take your kindness for weakness, and they say, I'm sorry, and then they do the same thing, and they probably do it worse than the first time. So it happens, but I can't judge, everyone off of one bad person, right? So big round of applause to Gucci Mane for, recognizing his faults and apologizing to people about it. All right, let's get into this Tyler, the Creator thing, because he's facing a lot of criticism on X, aka Twitter. So let's go over this article. If you have been an online fan of music for the past 15 years, you have probably seen more than a few Tyler, the Creator tweets, social media posts, and other statements about his fan base. He definitely appreciates their support, but when he complains about them for whatever reason, they are sometimes quick to clap back, especially this week. The Hawthorne native recently liked a tweet from a user criticizing his white fans for their shallow and disrespectful engagement with black art. Tyler's fan base hates black music, despite Tyler himself having a very deep love and appreciation for it. Guy has Charlie Wilson, Erykah Badu, DJ Drama, etc. collaborations, and they still refuse to engage with black art on any meaningful level. Very cannibalistic, the tweet reads. This emerged at around the same time as Tyler, the Creator's tribute to the legendary and recently deceased D'Angelo, presumably as a response to the more ignorant reactions to his posts concerning the soul icon's impact. Of course, this relatively vague statement led to a lot of debate and also a lot of criticism for the former Odd Future frontman, supposedly fueling this discrepancy himself. Users on Twitter brought up, it's funny how everybody still mentions X as Twitter, brought up old statements that they interpreted as possibly anti-black, the edgy content of early OF days, and other controversies such as selling merch with blackface. Tyler himself hasn't publicly responded to any of this at press time. The discussion continues to grow on Twitter and stuff like that, right? The beautiful thing about music, hip-hop, whatever genre, just music in general, is it brings people together. And I'm a perfect example of that because, when 50 Cent went to go perform in my country in Kosovo, Serbians who tried to commit mass genocide towards us joined us for that one night with no issues to enjoy 50 Cent's concert. This is a black artist that was born in Southside Jamaica, Queens, who never probably even kept up with the Serbia-Kosovo War in 1998, right? Probably didn't think he had anything that he would ever have an impact on that at all. I'm not saying that he solved the war and, everything is kumbaya, but him going there, he has no ties to that. Him going there and making everybody come together and not fight each other for that one night of his performance shows that music is something that just brings a lot of people together. And hip-hop being the dominant genre has brought a lot of races together. I feel like it's actually reduced the race gap in America drastically. Like hip-hop is one of the genres, one of the pieces of culture and art form that has really brought people together the most. You could say it's probably the most, period. Regardless, I say all that to say, with music being so inclusive, like I talked about earlier in the podcast, it gets frustrating when, especially when I drop these clips, right? And you see people say, you're a white culture vulture. One guy called me the devil. It's insane. Like, they don't know my history in hip hop. They don't know how much I've dedicated my life to this, how much I respect the culture, how much I know about the history and respect it. But because they see me react to a Jim Jones and Tony Yayo clip and kind of give a backstory on it and criticize Jim Jones for attacking Tony Yayo for essentially almost no reason, people, hey, this, you're white, you're a culture vulture, stay out of black people business, stuff like that. This is how I view it, right? If you're somebody who is white speaking on hip hop, know your history and respect the culture, respect the craft. That's not my only issue. So I can see with Tyler the Creator liking certain tweets, like liking that tweet, I don't know, right? To say that artists are kind of like white people are kind of like Tyler's fan base hates black music, despite Tyler the Creator himself having a very deep love. And his white fan base doesn't really engage with black music, right? That's the assumption. We don't know. We don't know what part of his white fan base engages with a lot of black music or doesn't engage with black music at all and just likes Tyler the Creator. You know, this is the criticism of Eminem a lot, right? That his white fan base, all they care about is Eminem and they don't listen to any other hip hop rappers and they say he's the best of all time. I have an issue with that. I have a huge issue with that. You cannot go into a hip hop debate. You cannot even talk hip hop if you only listen to one fucking artist. Like, for example, Eminem stans, not fans, but the stans, the crazy ones. All they fucking listen to is Eminem. And they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They could care less about any other history in hip hop. They could care less about any other hip hop artist. They just view Eminem as the best. They like D12. They like Shady Records, which is 50 Cent. That's it. That's it. They don't give a shit about anything outside of that. And that's a problem. That I don't like. You know, if somebody says, hey, Eminem's the best, you better be listening to a bunch of artists because there's a lot of artists in hip hop that are fucking amazing. It's not just Eminem. But that's a whole, you know, it ties into this, right? Because Tyler the Creator could have fans that just listen to him and they say everything else is corny and whack, whether it's black, white, whatever skin color. There are fans like that where they'll just listen to that specific artist of that genre and they don't give a fuck about anything else. That's unfortunate. I think music is beautiful. There's a lot of different things in music that people can enjoy. If you enjoy Tyler the Creator, I'm sure there's other versions of Tyler the Creator that you will enjoy. I don't know. I know cannibalistic is kind of a hard, some people just don't want to fuck with other music. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. If I was just listening to 50 Cent, that's it. That's my only favorite artist. But I'm not, obviously I wasn't, if I'm not doing this podcast, hip hop stuff and all this hip hop content, hey, what's the issue with that? If I say, hey, I only rock with 50 Cent, I don't really fuck with any other hip hop. Let's just say I say that, for example. Then it's like, what's the issue with that? As long as I'm not disrespecting any other, artist or genre, then there should be no issue. But I think this person is insinuating that these people are disrespecting, black artists as well and not really knowing the history and the lineage and all that stuff. And I agree with that, man. If you're somebody's going to speak on anything, not just hip hop music, but anything, and you want to voice your opinion on that stuff, you better know the history of it because you have to know the roots of this stuff, of where things started. And, for debate purposes as well, and just for respect factor, man. You have to know the history of things. That shows that you respect this craft. I'll never forget, I was at a Japanese restaurant, and it's here in Atlanta. I forget what it was called, man. Terrible with names. But regardless, I was at a Japanese restaurant, and I had been in this Japanese restaurant like 3 times in like probably 2 months, maybe more. Because I was kind of semi-seeing this Japanese girl, so we would go, to a lot of Japanese, restaurants. And I remember seeing this dish, and it had like this interesting kind of description, because some of these dishes kind of like had a little historical, like, which is really cool. I've never seen it before, but they had like these dishes, and they had kind of like a little bit of history around the dish. And our waiter was black, right? Japanese restaurant, black waiter. I had no issue with it. And I actually ended up asking the waiter, hey, do you like know more about this dish, like the history of this? Because it's really interesting. The guy broke down like so much shit that I can't even fucking remember off the top of my head, right? Just broke down everything. It had to do with this happening in this war, and people had to survive off these certain ingredients, and this is how this dish came. Just insane stuff. Never in a fucking split second of my mind did I ever say, oh, this guy is black, so I'm not going to listen to you because you have no idea what you're talking about because you're black. I want to go listen to a Japanese guy tell me about this stuff. Never. That never crossed my mind. Because wake up, alarm here. You're in 2025. You have every means to study the history of something. I assumed, hey, he knows his shit, man. He's breaking it down for me. He's throwing timelines in there, which I told him, I was like, I love timelines. So he was telling me, hey, 1783, this happened, just all kinds of shit that I wish I could remember. This is like over a year ago, though. It's like a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago. I don't know, around there. But he was literally breaking down things for me, and never in my mind did it cross, hey, this guy is black. He doesn't know shit about, Japanese culture. Never crossed my mind. Not once. Because, hey, there's people that literally, like, imagine criticizing Gordon Ramsay, right? He's from the UK, and he Kitchen Nightmares, right? That show where he criticizes, restaurants that are running poorly and not making money. He literally went to New Orleans, and he criticized a black-owned restaurant that had soul food, that they were making soul food. They were making bad soul food. And he was like straight up telling them, hey, you're making bad soul food. Imagine if the owner was like, you're British. You have no idea what you're talking about. Go talk about your own dishes. This is a world-renowned chef who's actually visited every place where these foods stem from, every ingredient he's ever cooked with. He knows everything. He's a top world Michelin star chef. But there will literally be people that would be like, oh, you shouldn't speak on that because you're not from that culture, regardless of him being a top world-renowned chef, And I'm not saying I'm a top world-renowned, news reporter, or hip-hopper or whatever you want to call me, right? But I do know my history for the most part. To say that I, don't know shit about anything, but that's what I'm saying. It's very tricky in a lot of this stuff. I can see why people get upset because there's this Dame Dash kind of put that culture vulture word out and kind of just made this kind of stigma that like, hey, white people just take from this culture and that's all they do. When no, man, white people have actually purchased the bulk of hip hop music. A lot of black artists got super filthy rich because white people got into it and decided to purchase these artist CDs. And I don't know, I just don't view it white and black. I think the people that just view things white and black like that, definitely, they're looking at things from an old school lens that I don't view things like that, man, when it comes to really anything. If you're knowledgeable, then I listen to you. And I'm like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. Or at least they know what they're talking about because I'm not knowledgeable in every single field, right? I can just only assume. But if somebody's going there and talking about, the history of Apple, iPhone, or tech, let's just say the history of video games, right? Because a lot of it started in, China and Japan, mainly Japanese, right? I would never assume if a black guy was talking about, or a Mexican guy, or I don't know, Indian was talking about, video game history. I want to be like, no, I want to hear this from a Japanese guy. He would know better. Like, no, just, hey, if you know your history, it's well researched, well documented. Cool, man. It doesn't matter, man. And anybody, that's the thing too. Anybody can speak on this stuff. Like, if I've had comments where like, why are you speaking on this stuff, man? Leave that to other people, and you shouldn't be speaking on this type of stuff. And I'm like, dude, I literally respond and say, hey, you can create your own content, speak on it. Like, what's the problem? There's nobody stopping you. It is what it is, man. I think there's black, white. I think people that speak and voice their opinion heavily about their favorite artist, if they don't listen to other artists in that genre, they cannot do that. I think that's where I draw the line where I'm like, you're only listening to one artist and you're claiming they're the best ever. And I run into a lot of Eminem stans like that. I don't want to throw it just to Eminem stans because there's a lot of stans of artists like Kanye West stans. They just listen to fucking Kanye West and they think he's the greatest thing ever. But there's other artists out there. There's if you're going to speak on a genre of music or a specific category of music, then know that field pretty well and then voice your opinion, But that's my issue with it. I think, and definitely get into other music, man. I encourage there's something for everyone out there, man. I encourage you guys, man. If you're somebody who's like just listening to a specific set of artists, try to listen to as much as you can. I even need to do that more because I'll sometimes get in this box where I'm just listening to 2000s music and I'm like, nah, man, I need to start spreading out. Let me listen more to 80s. Let me listen to more to 2010s. I'll get stuck in the 2000s a lot because I just love that era of music from every artist that came out in the 2000s, from rock to R&B to pop to hip hop. The 2000s to me was like the perfect, decade of music. But interesting nonetheless, man. I think Tyler the Creator has been controversial regardless when it comes to, stuff that he said online. He said a lot of crazy stuff online, but that's kind of his personality. People kind of expect it from him. But, complaining about your own fan base, I don't know, man. It's kind of, hey, man, your fans are who they are. If you don't like them, I don't know what to tell you, man. They're the ones that made you rich and famous. If you don't like them, don't make music anymore or just shift, what you're doing completely. I don't know what to tell you. But, that's it for the Tyler Creator thing. New music, let's get into it. Ty Dolla $ign dropped the Tycoon album. Gucci Mane dropped the Episodes album. Big L and Nas dropped the track You Ain't Got a Chance, which is all right. I checked it out. It's not bad. Rod Wave dropped Leavin'. NBA YoungBoy and Birdman dropped FTN. Birdman out here killing it. Birdman, bitch. Stun Island. Wale and BNYX dropped Miranda Benz. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but shout out to Wale. I got to check that out. Bossman D-Lo dropped Big Dog Status. Let's check Colin. I don't know if I haven't heard of Bossman D-Lo in a minute. Album sales. This is the most insane drop of album sales ever. So it really goes to show you that Taylor Swift's first week initial sales were inflated a lot because of the insane amount of versions of albums that she released. So she sold 4 million the first week, right? Beating Adele. Second week, and I shit you not, she is at 335,000 copies. That is a 92% drop, which I don't know if that's the biggest drop in music history, but that is an insane drop. Usually your second week, you drop about 50% on average. Dropping 92%, insane. Adele didn't drop that much. Her second week, she did 1.1 million. Her first week, she did 3.4 million. Second week, did 1.1 million. So I don't know what that drop is. That's about 50%, let's just say. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 60. I don't know. Terrible math. But yeah, to drop 92%, something seems fishy, man. Those numbers don't really seem like they're organic. Let's just say that. But yeah, it is what it is, man. 4 million. History won't remember the second week sales. Think about what album you remember second week sales from. Pretty much none, right? It's only historical albums. Like 50 Cent broke the record with Give It Your Try Trying about, because the first week he had 872,000. The second week he had 822,000. So he didn't, it was like, it broke the record for not having a drop in sales like at all. It dropped maybe 2% or whatever the percentage amount was, which had never been seen in music history before. Because he had a short week, 5 days. Because if he had a full week, he would have done 1 million copies off his debut album, which would have been insane, which should be counted, honestly. But it is what it is. That's a whole different gripe I have. Number 2, K-Pop Demon Hunters soundtrack at 105,000. Number 3, Morgan Wallen, I'm the Problem at 78,000. Number 4, Cardi B, Am I the Drama at 51,000. Number 5, Sabrina Carpenter, Man's Best Friend at 46,000. Number 6, Olivia Dean, The Art of Lovin' at 36,000. Number 7, Bad Bunny with 33,000. Number 8, Alex Warren, You'll Be Alright Kid with 31,000. Number 9, SZA SOS with 31,000. Number 10, Morgan Wallen, One Thing at a Time at 30,000. Going down the list, let's see. NBA YoungBoy Massa at 22 with 21,000. Gunna, The Last One at number 26 with 20,000. Drake, Take Care, number 28 with 20,000. Party Next Door and Drake, Some Sexy Songs for You at number 30 with 19,000. Kendrick Lamar, GNX at number 34 with 16,000. BX The Plug, Hope You're Happy, number 35 with 16,000. Eminem Curtain Call, number 42 with 15,000. And Doja Cat Vi at number 50 with 14,000. And that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. As always, appreciate you all for supporting. It means the world to me. Spotify, Deezer, Pocket Cast, YouTube, all that. By the way, Sean Money interview is coming out. I apologize. I haven't had the proper time to really go over it. I got to do the voiceover stuff too as well with the questions that I asked. So I still got a little bit of work to do, but expect it hopefully this week. And then we can get back on track. Some documentaries coming as well. So expect it hopefully this week. That's my plan. So yeah, Spotify, Deezer, Podcast, YouTube, all that. Have an amazing night, day, whenever you listen to this, and peace.